Welcome back. You're still watching AFCON Express on News Central TV. And Favor Ito, I have Wale Scott in the studio. Let's talk about what's expected to happen today ahead of the round of 16 kickoff. A look back at the group stages shows why AFCON 2025 has gripped Morocco. Now, the opening round produced one of the trailing group phases in the 24-team era with 87 goals from 36 matches, averaging 2.42 per game, and nearly 730,000 fans in attendance across venues nationwide. Now, attacking intent defined the phase as 9 penalties were awarded for Group A, Morocco and Mali. Then, of course, made it through in that particular order. In Group B, we have Egypt, South Africa qualified from that group. In Group C, Nigeria, Tunisia, and Tanzania, I think, made it to as one of the third best placed team in that group. Senegal, DR Congo, Benin Republic all qualified from Group D. In Group F, it was Algeria, Burkina Faso, Sudan also qualified to the round of 16. And finally, Group F, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Mozambique also qualified to the round of 16. Let's get to introduce our guests, of course, will be joining us to preview the round of 16 fixtures and tell us what to expect. First, all the way from the west part of Nigeria, that's, of course, in Ibadan, your state. We have Victor Opone joining us this morning. Victor, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining on the AFCON Express today.
About happenings right there in Morocco from Ibadan here this morning. All right,
and also all the way from Gambia, we have Fode Badi, a sports journalist in Gambia. Fode Badi, good to have you. Happy New Year to you, and it's been a while. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, morning. How are you doing? You good? Happy New Year too. I'm happy to be back here with you again.
All right, and of course, our correspondent who is in faraway Fez, where Nigeria is being camped, is Udoka Ujoko. Udoka, good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Favor. Good morning. Looking forward to a great time here.
All right, let's go straight to business. The round of 16 fixtures begins today. Mali are set to face Tunisia in a decisive 2025 African Cup of Nations round of 16 clash at the Mohammed V Stadium in Casablanca, with both sides chasing a place in the quarterfinals. Tunisia arrived after finishing second in Group C with 4 points, while Mali progressed as Group A runners-up despite failing to secure a group stage victory. Mali extended their unbeaten run to 6 matches with a goalless draw in their final group outing, but faced selection concerns, including a suspension for Amadou Haidara and injury doubts over key defenders. Tunisia, meanwhile, have struggled for form, but rely on early group points to advance, with only one injury concern heading into the knockout fixture. This fixture, of course, renews a long-standing rivalry that remains finely balanced. Let me come to Fode Badi. Fode, this fixture should be familiar to you. Mali against Tunisia. What should we be expecting? What should we be looking forward to? Which of these teams stand a chance to progress to the quarterfinal?
These 2 teams have met in the last 3 editions. I think this time is going to be the 4th one they've met in the African Cup of Nations. And in the last 3 that they have met, you know, they've drew 2 times and Mali won once, 1-0. That tells you how highly contested the game is, you know, or this fixture is. Seeing them drew 1-1 in the 2 occasions and Mali winning 1-0 in one of them, and now they are meeting for the 4th time. They've met in 2019, 2022, 2024, and now in the 2025 edition. It's going to be a highly contested game, as we always see. I'm not sure we're going to see goals raining. We're going to see a much, you know, highly intensive flow of attack, and as well as, you know, keeping the defense tight. Because I know the Malian coach, we have been behind him here in the Gambia. We know the type of coach he is in terms of playing against big nations. Much more having now, you know, Mali under his feet. I know he's going to really keep his boys on the field to make sure that they keep the Tunisian side, which has been not very consistent over the years. You know, for me, I think Tunisian side is not as they were in some 4 or 5 years ago. You know, in the last 2 years, you know, you can see some of the inconsistency in the Tunisian team, you know, winning some of the games that, you know, everyone expect they could, but also losing to games that everyone don't expect them to lose, you know, or even drawing games that, you know, no one expect them to draw. So, but for Mali, I think they're on the right fit. Looking at their game against, one of the favorites of this tournament, if not the favorite, that is Morocco. I think they can still put the same performance against Tunisia.
Okay.
And, we're expecting a highly contested game like they have been doing in the last 3 editions.
All right, let me come to Victor. Victor, Mali qualified to the round of 16 without winning any game. I don't know how they were able to do it, but they were not able to pick a victory in all 3 games. Tunisia, on the other hand, they had a very good run coming to the AFCON. I mean, the last 10 games, they were defeated, before coming to the AFCON, although they lost, during the group stage. But on paper, a lot of persons are saying maybe Tunisia is a favorite. But I remember talking to Doka just yesterday, and he was probably tipping the penalty shootout, but still giving it to Tunisia. What kind of game should we expect? Is it going to be a physical game or more tactical game between Tunisia and Mali?
Well, of course, I expect something really frenetic, right? I expect chaos on the pitch because the Malians, I expected they would have learned lessons from the last AFCON outing that they had. I'm not sure that they have really worked on their mistakes, the things that they actually had affecting them from the last outing. I think that for what it's worth, the Tunisians, despite the history between them, have the upper hand. They have the psychological edge, and of course, they are playing somewhere close to home. And when it comes to games like this, the Tunisians know how to hone it, especially when it goes down the way of the lottery of penalties. And I think the Carthage Eagles have more than enough in their kitty to actually get over the heights of Mali. I think Mali actually have some problems that they have not fully worked on. And, you talk about Amadou Aidara missing this game now. Earlier on, there were fears about, players like Hives Bissouma and what they could contribute. And now we're looking at what is happening with the Malians. They're looking for salvation from different angles. Now going into a knockout with those kind of problems, issues that you don't want to, actually be encountering as a gaffer. And I think it's going to be very difficult for them to say at the full blast of the full time, they will be able to correct many of the mistakes that they have experienced over time. I think the Tunisians own this one, and I think they will get the victory before the end of the 90 minutes, actually.
All right, Udoka Joku, you are currently in Fez, and you've also been, following with other teams and seeing how they prepare. The round of 16, we looked at it also yesterday, talking about which teams will, push an upset or try to get past these teams. For Mali, they played against the host nation. Not many expected them to be able to, give them a tough run, especially playing, in the midst of thousands of fans or hundreds of thousands of fans. But going into Casablanca, Tunisia might likely get the North African support. What do you think that Mali can do to push Tunisia or to probably get a win against the North African side? All right, let me come to Wale Scott in the studio. Wale, the guys have been doing justice so far to this particular fixture. Thomas Selfate usually used to be the coach of Gambia, and he's now the coach of Mali. And Mali also had a good run at the last AFCON.
True.
They're trying to take a step further. But they came into this game having not won any game so far in this tournament. Could this be the first win, begging for them?
It could be. Tunisia has shown us what they can do. In the second half, they came all out. Hannibal was all over the field, and they almost got an equalizer against Nigeria, which means we know what Tunisia can do on a good day. But let's look at Mali. Mali always do what they know how to do. The resilience, the African resilience. They're stubborn, And just when you think you've gotten Mali, they come back at you. They always stand up again, And that's what they will use against Tunisia again too. They will show their resilience. Yes, don't measure them with the fact that they got draws in the group stages. No, that's because they were resilient, and they can do that against Tunisia. If they bring up their A game, they don't even need A game. Mali will just be Mali. They will be stubborn. They will frustrate Tunisians, and they will make them make mistakes. But Tunisia, we know what they can do when push comes to shove. We know what they can do.
All right. When Wale Scott says Mali can be stubborn, it reminds me of in the past where we used to use this phrase, the Malians, right here in Nigeria. But anyways, this is football. But let's go straight down to the next game. Interestingly, Sudan completed final preparations in Tangier ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations knockout encounter with reigning champions Senegal. Now, the Falcons advanced to the last of 16 as one of the 4 best third-place teams, securing qualification with key group stage victory over Equatorial Guinea despite defeats of Algeria and Burkina Faso. Senegal entered the tie in a strong form after topping Group D with wins over Botswana and Benin Republic, extending their dominance in matchup as Sudan are yet to record the victory against the West African giant. Sudan last lifted the AFCON trophy in 1970. The winner of the encounter will face either Tunisia or Mali. By the way, the defending champions at the moment is Cote d'Ivoire, but Senegal were past champions. But let's get to hear your thoughts about ahead of the game between Senegal and Sudan.
We are here to make sure we showcase what Sudan can also do. We respect each and every team, but Sudan is also here to showcase what the players have and what the team has. We will make sure we give everyone who watches the game a very good presentation of ourselves. Yeah, but I've always said that Senegal has got a very good team. I have total respect for Senegal, but the bottom line is when you're playing against Senegal, you respect them, but you have no fear for them. Any team that is in here now, his ambition is how can we win the cup. So my ambition stays the same. Sudan is here to fight to the end. So my vision is not just to be part or to just play this game and that's it. I'm praying that through maybe even the AFCON, it will help let the war calm down or even cease totally. That's why we're praying. Because I remember there was one game we played. When we won the game, everybody had to put his gun down, celebrating for about a week, which for me is something that football can change everything in this world.
C'est qu'on aura en face une équipe très disciplinée, bien organisée, voilà, qu'on connaît, qu'on a déjà joué et qui a montré vraiment des bonnes choses, surtout durant les éliminatoires de la Coupe du Monde, qui a gardé la première place pendant longtemps. Et voilà, et on ne va pas du tout prendre ce match à la légère. Sur le dit, notre capitaine n'est pas là. Après, maintenant, c'est le collectif. On sait qu'il est derrière, il ne sera pas sur le terrain, mais il sera toujours avec nous. Et surtout vu que l'état d'esprit qu'il y a ce groupe et aussi l'homme qu'il est, je pense que voilà, on jouera aussi pour que lui, il aura aussi l'opportunité d'être là dans les prochains tours.
C'est un adversaire qu'on respecte bien, même si les gens peut-être peuvent dire que ils ont un début de compétition qui est difficile, mais on sait tous qu'en Afrique, tous les matchs sont difficiles, il n'y a pas de match facile. Je pense que le match contre le Bénin en est la preuve. Donc voilà, c'est juste que on sait que s'il faut tout faire pour passer ce match, on sait ce qui nous attend et il faudra montrer un visage conquérant.
All right, the coaches of Senegal and Sudan and the players talking ahead of the game, but we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get reactions from our guests on what to expect from the game. Welcome back. You're still watching AFCON Express on News Central TV. Favor Itwa is here. Of course, Wale Scott and Fode Mane from Gambia and Victor Okone right there in Ibadan, Oyo State. Talking about the AFCON, we're just looking at the group right now, the round of 16 clash between Senegal and Sudan. Fode, the coach of Sudan is from Ghana. He's been doing so well so far, qualified them to the African Cup of Nations. He says that he wants the win to help reduce or even stop the war in Sudan. That's what he wants the win to mean for him. Can Sudan cause an upset against Senegal later today?
You're saying this here, Sudan are not in this tournament just for football. I think they are there for more than football. And, as the coach has stated, I think, they can go far and they can of course cause an upset, against the strongest of Senegalese side. We've seen their World Cup qualifiers, how they held Senegal in the first half of that game, and going into the second half until Senegal were able to score, I think, 2 goals in the late minutes, and then they were able to beat them. But again, this is AFCON. You can always expect the unexpected, and I think Sudan will be able to do that. And when they do, they can of course achieve that ambition that they have, or dream that they have to use football to end the war in their country. We all hope if that is the only thing that they can do to end this war, let them hopefully achieve it. But we know they are facing the biggest, I can say for me right now, the biggest team or the strongest team in the AFCON, that is Senegal. It's a very difficult game for them. But there is no easy game in the AFCON, like the player said. But, if football is beyond just playing on the pitch, but it's also thinking about, bringing some greater good to the continent, I think, we all have to pray for that. But we know it's always going to be difficult because everybody has an objective coming into this AFCON. So let's see. We hope, aside from football as well, if they could not achieve it today, hopefully we can always hear that, the war in Sudan also ends, But it's going to be very difficult for them to beat Senegal. And we hope if they do, this will also mean a big statement for those back home, to hopefully put a cease to the crisis going in Sudan.
All right, Victor, Senegal against Sudan, on paper, Senegal are favorites, considering the quality of players in their squad. But I've seen their game. I saw a couple of games for Senegal in the group stage. They're not really, when it comes to being clinical, we see them struggle. The last game they played, if I'm not mistaken, the other team scored first. They had to rely on, I think, a penalty before, or somehow they thought they equalized and they ended in a draw. Today's game, where do you think the game will be won? The midfield, the attack, or maybe the goalkeepers?
Psychological than we see out there. When it comes to knockout games, it's a different caliber. And you look at Sudan, nobody expected that they would be able to do the job they did over Ghana last year. Nobody expected that they would be able to push and get out of that group the way they did. And kudos to them for showing that strength, being united on that front, pushing as hard as possible and ensuring that they have a country of their own that they can come back and call home. It's a huge one right there. But then I'm not sure that the Teranga Lions, although they have said they respect them, I'm not sure the Teranga Lions know, how badly these guys want, these, tournaments to work for them. And I think the Teranga Lions, yes, you mentioned the goal scoring problems. They're not technical as they should be. But I think, yes, they might have the strength, the difference in quality, the advantage that they have of players, with higher technical powers. And, it might just give them the edge. But, sometimes you talk about the psychology, the emotions behind the game, and, it might just stretch them all the way. Remember that without their captain, and there's so much work to be done out here on that front for them. So, yes, both sides respect each other, but they do not fear each other. And I think this is going to be one KG affair. But I think the game will not be won just on the pitch. It will be won in the heads of the players, actually. I think it will be won in the heads, to be won in the hearts of many of those players who want it the most and how much passionate they are to ensure that they get their country over the line in here. Remember, since Senegal won, a lot of people have cast eyes at them, and it's looked like maybe they are not going to reach that height anymore. But then we just have to watch out and see. I think Sudan have more about them psychologically to get through this game. They are more motivated. They have that extra motivation. The energy that they have is buzzing through and through. And I think Senegal, they would have the fears about the profligacy affecting them and just might do them bad, coming to this fixture.
All right, let's now go straight to the camp of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Nigeria's Super Eagles have intensified preparations for their round of 16 clash against Mozambique, with 25 players participating in Friday's training session. Now the team advanced from Group C with a perfect record, winning all 3 matches against Tunisia, against Tanzania, Tunisia, and Uganda. Head coach Eric Chell has urged his squad to reset mentally, stressing that group stage success matters little in the knockout phase. Nigeria and Mozambique meet for the 6th time at senior level, with Super Eagles holding the strong historical record. Chell has emphasized focus and discipline as the sides aim to maintain and secure a quarterfinal spot, underlying the importance of concentration and tactical execution in high-stakes elimination. Let me come to Wally Scott. Wally Scott, from what we're getting, I wish Udoka would return so he can tell us more. They've not been access to the media in the last few days. It's been closed door. training and preparations for Eric Chell? What does this mean? Does it show how much of seriousness that the coach wants to do, going into the game against Mozambique?
We're journalists here, but the truth is that sometimes we actually are a distraction. Sometimes.
Really?
How? Sometimes.
How?
But most of the time we want to make the headlines. And then sometimes we use the players' words sometimes to hype our media houses, and then it distracts, really. I remember when we were training, I think it was Geno Raw. I was walking to Cement to try and interview him, and the guy was like, I don't want them to speak to the press for now. He had his reasons. Sometimes the press can be distraction, sometimes, really, that's the truth. But Eric Chell is telling us, in other words, that, listen, we've not come to play. We don't need any razzmatazz, we don't need any distraction. Media, please leave us alone, let's train. And they've been doing just that. Chelsea has said it all. I like his attitude to his argument. Chelsea says this is a knockout stage. You must not lose concentration. You must not lose focus. You lose it, you drop out. It's a knockout stage. You lose, you're gone. So this is the period where you can't afford to lose focus, no distractions. And Chelsea says it all the time. This is knockout stage. It's very dangerous. It's like a banana peel. You make a mistake, bam, you're out of the competition. So we must take every game now as a final. That's the truth. And I think Shell means that. When he says no distractions, no press, no media, closed door training, I think he means business now at this point.
All right, before I come to Victor, let me just tell our friend Fodibade. Fodibade, I want to say a big thank you to you. But before you go, what's your prediction for the games today? Tunisia, Mali's game, and of course, Sudan's game.
For Tunisia and Mali's game, I'm going with Mali. I think Mali is going to win 1-0, and for Tunisia, for Senegal, Sudan's game, I think Sudan, they need this game, but I think they're going to lose to Senegal with 2-0. So I have Senegal 2-0 and Mali 1-0.
All right, Mali 1-0. All right. Thank you very much for the We're looking forward to you joining us again during the course of the show. Thank you for joining. Let me come to Victor right now. Victor, you heard what from Wale Scott. I know the conversation is ongoing. So many persons are saying we spent monies to go cover the team, but not be granted access except the official match day access from CAF to the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Does it mean that the media, who most of the times you look for them, has now become a distraction going into this game? And if it results to victory, would that be said, or would that be justified that Eric Chell did the right thing to reduce the media interactions in camp just so he can prepare against Mozambique?
Well, for me, I think it's about understanding sacrifices and both parties knowing that at some point in time they would have to compromise. But we should understand that the first and foremost business for all Nigerians out there is the progress of the national team in the tournament. So whatever it takes, we have to ensure that we apply and, of course, set with the sacrifices that have to be made. And, at this point in time, there's been that back and forth over the last couple of years about media being a distraction and all that. If used rightly, if streamlined the right way, I think that we're going to get it. I think it will help a number of players who actually focus better with the use of social media. There's some, of the players who focus better and some others who are more motivated after they have just seen some of the posts on social media, or they have seen that they're making the spotlight. It's just like that. There are different strokes for different folks. That's just how it is. And this is tournament football. We need all the focus, and we need all the factors aligning for us to actually see the best of this club. So when Eric Sekushel says this is what he wants, I think people have to understand that this is what he wants. But at the same time, let's not make too much out of it, because at other times we know that you actually allow for some things to happen. And so as long as there is purpose around whatever they are doing and everybody's aligning with that purpose as a group, I think we're going to have something good for us, because we need everybody united, and everybody's heads right there in the same space. So if you're not getting that, it's going to be problematic. And I think it's good that we have seen feeds right there. We know that in-house, we have some members of the media also doing some beats right there with Eric Sekushel, national team. Everybody understands what's going on, and I think it's good.
All right, Victor. I mean, interesting actually, because I know you follow the particular conversation at the moment with this particular issue. But we'll take a quick break and go for another commercial break. When we come back, we talk about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. What are their chances? Should we be scared, or should we just go to bed and say Mozambique on paper is done? What should we do to overcome the Mambas of Mozambique? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching AFCON Express on News Central TV. We're talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria, the build-up to Monday's cracker against the Mambas of Mozambique. Wallace Court, Eric Chell has told the players, let's forget about what happened in the group stage. We had a clean record. The race continues against Mozambique. While I have a feeling that, I mean, the fans on the street are saying we should be able to, even thinking already ahead of the quarterfinals, but Mozambique could be a difficult pill to swallow.
True. Don't let's forget that there was a particular World Cup that we were supposed to meet Denmark, and then after Denmark, we win, we met Brazil. Nigerians were already thinking ahead of Denmark, and we lost 4-0 to Denmark that time. So I don't think ahead. I never do that. But I like the spirit Eric Chell brings to the game. Eric Chell is like, I respect every team at this level, and this is knockout stage. We must get ready and refuse to lose focus. I like that attitude. I think in the camp of the Super Eagles, they are not overlooking Mozambique. We the fans, of course.
That's the head-to-head record on the street.
We the fans, of course, are. But in the team, the spirit in the team is we're not overlooking anyone. Anyone can beat us if we make a mistake. And I think I like the spirit that's going into it. Mozambique is very important to us at this point. After the match, if we have won, and then the next team comes and becomes important again. But for now, they are important, and we must respect them.
All right, Victor, before I let you go, Nigeria have not been able to keep a clean sheet. We score, they score. We scoreboard, they score. I mean, how do we solve these issues going into the round of 16? Know you fully aware that, I mean, the times that maybe your goal scorers are not scoring, and then you're afraid that there might be a defensive lapse that would result to a goal against the country.
Shout out to Wale, that's an OG right there, took me back. But then, the question that you're asking, the answer is in our clinicality. The answer is in having a striker like Victor Osimhen find and bounce niggas and getting the goals and having the right stroke of luck. Also, we should be looking at, continually ensuring that we are pegging back our opponents, because that's how Premier football works. Moments make the memories. That's how it is. And if you look at the Super Eagles of Nigeria, all our games that we have played, we have been dominant in different phases. But then, we've seen them score us when we least expect, which means that, yes, everybody has weaknesses. We are not all perfect, but definitely we need to ensure that we are clinical as much as possible. Take, for example, that Tunisia game. We were 3-0, and, we were looking at the goal scoring, and we felt there would be more, there could be more. But the moment we let our guard down, we saw them score one, saw them score the second one through, different circumstances. And, these are things that we need to watch out for. The way you peg back your opponents will make them more scared. And, at that point in time, it allows them to actually sit back and try to fashion out ways to stop you from doing that. And the more you keep them, the more minutes you spend keeping them far away from your own box, the better it is for you when it comes to these games. It is knockout. And the lesser time you spend in your area, the best it is for you right there. The more clinical you can get, the more troubles you cause for them. And I think that is the message that we should be passing across at this point in time. Shout out to Eric Sekoshe for talking big about this game, for ensuring that the players are focused ahead of this game. But if there's one thing I want us to do, it is to be clinical from start to finish. And if we can be clinical from the remaining games, I think we make that trophy, we make it 4.
All right, thank you very much. Victor Opode would allow you to go back and, of course, enjoy some Abala at Begiri, of course, in Ibadan. Thank you very much for joining on the show today. Let's quickly move out and let you know about goal scorers so far. Brahim Diaz, Ayub El Kabi of Morocco, alongside captain of Algeria, Riyad Mahrez, are currently the joint top scorers at the AFCON 2025, each letting 3 goals as the tournament enters the knockout phase. Trailing them by Nigeria's Adebola Lookman with 2 goals. We have Rafael Oyedika with 2, Abad Diallo, Lai Foster, Mohamed Salah of Egypt, Senegal's Laside Sidayoko, Nicholas Jackson, of course, all completed the lineups, but of course, it's all to play for. There's also an award for the highest goal scorer. Igalo won it in 2019 when Nigeria won bronze. during the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Meanwhile, football fans have been turning out in large numbers at the makeshift fan zone in Genvilliers, of course, and that's, of course, near Morocco, trying to have the very best. That's near Paris, I beg your pardon, to watch Africa Cup of Nations matches. The venue offers supporters an affordable alternative stadium tickets with a €10 entry fee, providing access to live broadcasts and a lively match day atmosphere. The crowd are growing on the line AFCON strong pull within the African diaspora in France. Beyond the fan zone, the tournament has sparked a commercial boost, particularly for shops selling national team jerseys. Several retailers reports being stretched by high demand, reflecting the competition's cultural and economic impact far beyond the host nation.
J'ai payé plus de 1000 € pour aller juste voir le match du Cameroun. 10 € c'est rien ça. Même à 50 à 100 € j'allais. Et puis l'ambiance est époustouflante.
C'est-à-dire on a fait Sénégal hier, c'était rempli. On a fait Mali, c'était à moitié rempli. Donc en vrai ça prend de l'ampleur. Si vous voulez regarder votre CAN, c'est ici ça se passe. Ça marche très très bien. Les gens ils arrivent, ils prennent leur ticket à l'avance pour pouvoir être sûr de rentrer.
Puis au début de la CAN, j'avais entamé, comme j'ai toujours fait, la vente des produits frais et les maillots, mais avec la pression des commandes des maillots. Du coup, j'ai d'abord mis les produits, les commandes des produits à côté. Et là, je fais uniquement les maillots jusqu'à la fin de la CAN.
All right, it's actually giving me the feel of what I experienced in Côte d'Ivoire during the AFCON. What is called Ivorians, when it comes to the African Cup of Nations, when it comes to football, the way we see Nigerians wear jerseys just maybe on match days, you see Wales come out in green by green, it's a tradition to wear even jerseys to work. Like, it's just a normal thing for them. And we can see even in Paris, how much of the Ivorian jerseys is being seen right there. I mean, the African Nations Cup also be reflected in Europe.
No doubt, it will. Don't forget that with all the problems we have in Africa, numerous problems that we have, the only opium, the only high that Africans have is football. That's the only thing that brings us together and brings us joy. And so it's only normal to expect that an African who lives abroad will be more proud of his country's jersey much more than we are here. You can imagine how many of my friends cherish their Super Eagles jersey. I don't even have one. Wow. My friends cherish it like it's a guadal. The ones that live abroad.
Is it a case of, the problems in the country is too much for us to not think of, going to buy?
No, it's not. I can assure you, the only time the average Nigerian is happy, truly happy, is when football is going on like Nations Cup right now. Okay. Everything stops. Everything that is negative stops when there's football. I remember that during the civil war in Nigeria, the war stopped for 3 days because Pele was in Nigeria.
Wow.
Yes. That's what football can do.
Interesting times ahead. I know that there's some watch parties even in Lagos, and some of them are even struggling for fans. Only on, Super Eagles days we get to see fans. Sure. But you can imagine in Paris, different African games, but yet they're still having influx of persons coming out to support their respective countries. But that's the size of the show today. I must say a big thank you to you, Wale Scott.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure doing the sports with you.
Thank you.
And don't forget, AFCON Express returns on Sunday, 11 a.m. Nigerian time for the very best, and of course, results from Saturday's fixtures. But we'll be going on to have the very best of matches with us today. Thank you very much, our viewers, and Favor Itua. Do have a lovely, fabulous weekend.